Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sky Sports Fantasy Football, courtesy of Fantasy Football Scout Game Week 20 preview. My name is Luke, and with me, as ever, is Niall. How are you doing, mate?
I'm doing good. Yeah, it's good to be back. It's been an unfortunate time that we've spent on the sidelines. Well, I suppose we've been postponed like quite a lot. The football fixtures have been, but no, good to see that your laptop's back up and running, and hopefully everyone who's joined in with the spaces that we've been doing over the last few weeks. We've done 4 or 5 of them now. Has enjoyed those, but it's good to be back. I'm recording again with you.
Definitely, yeah. Those spaces are great. To be honest, they've been good. Obviously, the whole community can get involved. If you're watching this video and you've not heard of them or whatnot, you can see our Twitter handles at the bottom there. Hopefully, occasionally we'll jump onto Spaces on Twitter, and if you see it, jump in. You can ask us questions, chat, get involved. It's great, to be honest. But yeah, computers back up and running finally. It's been a long time, lots of drama that I won't get into, but it's working now, and I'm chuffed to have it because now I can start doing some gaming as well. So I missed that out. But anyway, how's it been going, Niall? Because it's been a long time. I looked at our ranks, and they're pretty much exactly the same as they were about 7 weeks ago or whatever it was. So we're kind of treading water. That's the feel I get. Is that what the impression you've had?
Yeah, definitely. There's been some major ups and some major downs, I think, over the last few weeks. But the biggest high was I had Ronaldo captain for that Arsenal game. That feels like ages ago now because it
Right.
was, which boosted me quite a lot. And then, last week, the week before, I brought in Antonio on that Sunday, as I'd planned to do, but I didn't do it for Rafinha. I think I took out Christensen instead. But I captained Antonio instead of captaining Gallagher on that day
Mm,
when Gallagher went crazy. So that was a kick in the teeth. And then my team's just been ravaged, as everyone else's has, by these
yeah.
postponements. So I've basically not moved. The good thing for me is that I haven't used that many transfers over the period because I've just thought, there's so much uncertainty at the moment.
Mhm.
Keeping cards close to chest and waiting for the picture to become clearer, hopefully, is a strategy that'll work out. But I know that you've made a few in that period as well, and you've gained on a couple of the transfers. So
Mhm.
yeah, overall pretty good. So in the last week, I got 104 points, which actually is really good. That's the highest I think I've had in a while. I think I got 41 the week before, so that just shows how dismal it's been. And I'm currently sitting at 1,110th overall, which is a little bit further down than I would have hoped. But as I say, I've got some transfers flush, and I'm hoping to attack the fixtures as we move into January with some rearrangements. How are you getting on?
Nice, yeah. I think the key bit to take there is just, and I think a lot of the experienced guys in some of the groups we're in and stuff were much of the same thinking. As tempting as it is to just start using transfers when your players are missing out and you want to obviously get that immediate gain, and suddenly transfers that would have never been in your mind to do suddenly look like options. And it's always important to keep them as options, right? Because occasionally a 2 for 0 or 3 for 0 will pop up. But I think basically keeping your powder dry, trying to hold on to your transfers. You never know that the person you bring in won't be suspended for the next game, and that's always the danger with this COVID thing. So I think if you've got through this period and you're like us, around the sort of same way you were before, the key thing to take is I haven't ended up using loads and loads of transfers just to try and navigate it. So yeah, that's probably the key bit to take from that. If you have used them, then you have used them, and there's nothing you can do about that. But I think it's definitely a good point to take on board. Listening to you say those things there. I mean, the Gallagher one, I had that too. I mean, that's a lesson for me. We know Gallagher's, and again, it's these things of when you've got a perfectly good captain on that day, to then I know it made sense to bring in a West Ham player anyway because of the fixtures. They had extra games, so I was probably always going to do that. But then to throw the armband on him as well, it's always in those scenarios I feel like where, and we've talked about it before, transfers, yes, they're valuable. They can actually end up costing you points quite a lot of times throughout the season. And yeah, it might have been different. Gallagher might have got 0 and Antonio might have got 3 in another universe, but Gallagher's just an absolute beast. I didn't need to do that really. I should have just left him. And to be honest, if you're playing the safe game, he is going to be the most heavily captain player on that day. So it's actually a risk to go against him. So maybe a little bit of a lesson learned there for me anyway. Yeah, of late, the best thing I've done really is bring in Trent Alexander-Arnold. I bought him in a few weeks ago now. Just was basically just fed up with him being ridiculously good, and although he is obviously a very good player in Sky and he always has been, we've talked about it before where he's probably just below the very top tier players because of the fact that he doesn't always get passing. However, he just seems to just completely bypassed that and decided to just up those assists, that goal threat all the time. He's getting tackles, even getting shocked here. And Liverpool as well were keeping the clean sheets, right? Whereas me and you have had blocked Chelsea defences for a lot of it, so he was also beating them in that area. So yeah, for me, the block Chelsea defence has really cost me really this season. In fact, which I couldn't foresee that personally. I thought that was going to be my ace up the sleeve, and it just really hasn't been. And the Cancelo captain, which I think a few of us did this week. I think you did as well, didn't you, Niall? So they're the good points. And I think Cancelo moving forward, people still see, and I see it in group chats and everything, it's very much this Salah perma captain when he's playing, and I think that's still a fairly good ethos to take. But I would just say when Cancelo is on the same day, and we have been saying it a while, he is definitely in the conversation, especially in his easier games, just because he's got so many avenues. Yeah, the fact he got a goal and assist in this game is obviously a tad lucky because defenders don't get goals and assists every week. But we just know anyway, even if that didn't happen, he was onto a clean sheet potentially. He was onto passing potentially, shooting because he's been shooting a hell of a lot for a defender. Tackles, he's just got everything, hasn't he? So he's definitely in the conversation every time they play on the same day, and I think he's the second highest scoring player in the game now, just behind Salah. So those two really have just been the major keys. I think probably alongside Gallagher, just because of his price and his position. Those three guys, if you've had them over this period, and even from, I mean, I say over this period, from the very start of the season, to be honest, all three of those have been firing. I think those have probably been the three key assets in the game, and they probably still are moving forward. Do you agree with that?
Totally agree. And I'd also say that Trent's possibly coming into the conversation around captaincy, with everything
Mm.
that's happening around AFCON. So Salah
Yeah.
might be disappearing at some point. So we still don't know exactly when he's going to be away, which is quite frustrating. But, looking at some of the games, even Liverpool on Tuesday the 28th, so not long away now, they're playing against Leicester away. Leicester have been pretty porous at the back. If Salah isn't there, we still don't know. The chances are he will be, but if he's not, then you could look to Trent as an alternative captain to cover off those Liverpool games. But I think now we're going to move possibly from that perma captain in Salah whenever he's playing to perma captain in Cancelo.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
guy
you're
is
probably
just an
right.
animal, and as you said, he's been picking up a lot more shot bonus, which is rare for defenders to get that, but he's picked up a few times now. He's still knocking the ball around. He's capable of getting tackles. The guy can just get points from everywhere.
Mm.
And City have been keeping clean sheets too, so he's an absolute fixture in most people's teams now, and I think that'll be the case for a while. But I
Yeah.
suspect he'll be captain more and more and more. And I'm looking already. Wednesday 29th, he's got Brentford away. The only other game that day is Chelsea against Brighton. It'll be Cancelo every
Oh,
single day.
100%, yeah. And obviously the fact that I think he's played every single game apart from last week where he was suspended. He started every single game for Man City, so he's up that area of his game as well compared to last season where he missed out every now and then. And he got 24 points versus Newcastle, 48 as captain, 14 versus Wolves before that. Again with the man of the match, which tackles and passes he got in that one. This week he got passes and shots. He got man of the match. Obviously his assist and goal. And the biggest travesty, to be honest, is against Wolves. He ended up with just 4 points, just past his tier one. I actually had him captain on that day, which I think was okay because I think Salah only got an assist, so he missed out by 2 points. But if anyone who watched that game, he was easily the best player on the pitch again in that game and could have got a massive haul in that game as well. And I think that's what tipped a lot of us to start looking at him towards captain. So, yeah, I've banged on enough about him. I think he's been fantastic. In terms of your team now and moving forward, are you happy with where you sit then? And obviously, for me personally, I'm finding it quite difficult with all these games that are potentially being postponed. I know we've had a bit of good news recently that it's looking like teams are going to be almost forced to. I say good news in terms of football anyway. Are going to be forced to play as long as they've got the minimum numbers required. And there's a lot of games now to be fit in over the coming sort of game weeks that they're not on the site yet. So I'm a person who really likes to visualize it. I know that there's lots of predictions of who will play and what happens, and when I look at my team, I start to go blurry-eyed. And obviously Ben Krellin, if you guys don't follow him on Twitter, has all these predictions of where the games are going to go. But I really need to see it in front of me to try and plan it out. And I think you've been having a little look, haven't you, and seen some opportunities and stuff for moving forward for your team.
Absolutely. And I would say at this point, all of this is speculative. So we don't know
Mm.
for sure. We're waiting to see the detail. As with everything right now in Sky, as in any fantasy format, there's just so much uncertainty. You've got COVID. You've obviously got the rearranged fixtures. You don't know which players are going to turn up from day to day. Yes, the announcement for the Premier League was good that games are going to go ahead from a purely the fact that I'm off for the next 2 weeks. I'm going to want to watch every single game I can.
Yeah, yeah.
But chances are that if they've got, I think it was 13 fit players, including a goalkeeper, and that includes the under 23s, I believe. So that means that the
Mm.
criteria for games being called off, the bar's now being raised quite a lot. So suspect we may see less call-offs now, unless training grounds and stuff start getting shut down again, which possibly could happen. But so that's something we need to just take into account. And I think possibly that's why I've kind of been stifled a little bit and haven't used as many transfers during this period
Mm.
as I would have liked. Normally, December is a month where I go hard and
Hmm.
make a few transfers, hopefully capitalize on free for nuns
tell
and
you
stuff.
one. I tell you one now that you probably wish you'd have done, and I wish I had done, and that's Mendy to Ramsdale. He's been
Yeah, oh,
absolutely killing
God,
us
yeah.
both.
Yeah, so we spoke about that at the time. I think
Mm.
our view was that Mendy would keep more clean sheets. I mean, he should have kept a clean sheet against Everton. He did keep a clean sheet at the weekend against Wolves, but
Mm.
Chelsea have looked pretty dismal. And Ramsdale, obviously, he got a big 15-pointer in there somewhere. I know he only got the 3 points doubled against Everton. Um, but yeah, that is quite frustrating.
He's now the
But
highest scoring goalkeeper in the game. He costs
yeah,
a million less than Mendy, and obviously he
he didn't
didn't
even play the
didn't
game.
didn't start right at the very beginning as well. So these keepers are really important to get right in Sky. We've always known that. And Mendy, I mean, Chelsea just fell apart for a few weeks defensively, didn't they? They had a few issues, and obviously losing their two centre midfielders affected them. That can happen. I still believe stubbornly that Mendy will probably be right up there come the end of the season, but it doesn't matter because this is the period where you wanted to target those heavy points, and Ramsdale did have multiple avenues. So with Mendy leaving for the Afcon, I could have taken that opportunity. The only thing is, it was still a period of quite a few games, wasn't it? About 7 or 8 games, but about the time when I thought maybe I could bring Ramsdale in before it was the Afcon. So I don't know whether I made a mistake there or not, but ultimately I did because Ramsdale scored a hell of a lot more points.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
he's
it's
been
difficult.
frustrating.
The bottom line is though that the ship might not have sailed on opportunities to capitalise on Mendy's departure to Afcon. So he's someone I've got in my team. He asked me how my team's going, so
Mm.
start with him. I'm thinking about taking him out.
Hmm.
I was thinking, I was probably just going to move him to Ramsdale like everyone else, even though I feel like I've maybe missed those points and opportunities for him. And I know they've got some more difficult games coming up. They've got Man City and they've got Tottenham, I think,
Yeah,
the after New Year. So I'm thinking, well, where else can I go? What other goalkeepers can I look at? And De Gea is really starting to stick out.
yeah. Hmm.
I think the good thing is that over the festive period, Man United's games are always at the end of the game week. So they've obviously got Newcastle on the day after Boxing Day, once everyone else has played, and
Right.
then they've got Burnley, which I think falls after it does. It falls at the end of the game week. So you've got Chelsea playing Brighton the night before, and then you could bring in De Gea. So there's talk that Mendy might not even see that Brighton game. We don't know yet. We still don't know what's happening with
Hmm.
AFCON in terms of the dates that people are leaving. It looks like it's going to go ahead. So those transfers are going to have to be made. But if Mendy plays against Brighton, I think I'll probably take him out the next day, bring in De Gea, who's got Burnley. And then he's got a good run, De Gea. So he's got Wolves after that, Villa to come. And there's also the chance that there are some of the games that were cancelled.
Mm.
So Brentford game and the Brighton game might get slotted in at some point during January. So you're looking at possibly one, two, three, four, 5 games in the same period as Liverpool, Man City, and possibly Chelsea have one or maybe two max. So there's a good chance there to hopefully steal
Yeah.
a march by bringing in some Man United players. Now, obviously, at this point, it's still not confirmed. It's all up in the air. Things are changing
Yeah.
day by day.
I
But
think
at
I
this
think
current
odds
point,
wise it's looking good because like I say Ben
yeah,
Crellin's saying there's a I think he's convinced that I think he almost put a lock symbol which he wouldn't do if he didn't on at least a game week 22 in FPL anyway as they call it 22 and there might also be in 21 so yeah in the early stages of January. The other thing about that I really like is obviously I think Ronaldo's just going to be a key asset over that period. He's obviously got very good games, like you said. He's got extra games. I think a lot of people will go to him. Obviously, they have a new manager now since when we last talked, and although Man United still haven't looked fantastic, the team still looks kind of geared up to get Ronaldo points. He's obviously on penalties. But if he misses out a game, which I think is a danger given the fact that, well, just COVID for a start, it can happen to anyone at any point, but also the quick turnaround to games. You've got David De Gea sat there, haven't you? Like you said, they're always on the last day. So if you look at the Man United team sheet and then surprisingly Ronaldo's on the bench, David De Gea, you can just stick the armband on him. So I think he really is a key person to go to. I'm just going to throw some other goalkeepers out there quickly for you. I think David De Gea is probably the top pick, but I ended up going for Martinez the other day when Aston Villa's game then got cancelled, which was brilliant. So that was a brilliant move by me. But I did like Villa's fixtures and their defence looking good. So I think he's another reasonable option to throw out. Would you think he's a decent shout or not? Because obviously last season he was ridiculous as well. So we know he has got it in his locker.
definitely. And I do think he's a good option. And Gerrard seems to have tightened the defence up quite a lot, and he's still making saves. I do like Martinez. I don't think I'd go there. I think if I had a blank canvas and I could pick any goalkeeper I wanted to right now, I'd probably order it as De Gea first, and then I'd maybe have Ramsdale still up there
Hmm.
in second place just because he's doing so well.
Yeah.
Then I'd probably slot the likes of Martinez, maybe Lloris even because they've got some extra
They
fixtures in
have,
there.
yeah, they've got extra games. I was about to mention him as another option as well.
Yeah,
I think there's a few goalkeepers, isn't there, to move to? Although most people are probably sat on Ramsdale and aren't in this situation. But even with him, you could probably look at the De Gea ones. I think it does stand out, and even the Lloris one as well, like you say. Yeah, carry on with your team then. So in defence, any? I suppose you haven't got Trent yet, have you? I heard you talking about him the other day, saying
no.
you want to get him. I bet you wish you did.
Well, that's the thing. So I was going to do that 3 for none for Trent. I know a lot of people touted it. I think you brought Trent before that, didn't you? But a lot of
Yeah,
people made that move from Ronaldo over to Trent, and obviously it's going to cost you 2 transfers, or depending on, you might want to keep Trent and daisy chain someone else, which would have been wise. I just couldn't do that. If I wanted to get Trent, and the only person I could take out was Ronaldo, and I knew I had to bring him back in. So I'm thinking, well, it's going to be 2 transfers. I'm not going to captain Trent in any of those games. Let's just hide behind the sofa and hope I get lucky. I haven't really got that lucky, because he did, despite the fact they haven't kept a clean sheet, he's managed to get 14 and I think 8 points or 7 um, in 2 games with no clean sheets. I mean, that's just unreal for a defender. So it just shows what he's capable of. And they've got Leeds this weekend. You could easily bang in a goal there as well. So
mm,
yeah, I don't think it's been a disaster, but at the same time, in hindsight, if you've made that move, I think you'd be quite content with it. But the way that the fixtures are going, as I said, so Liverpool, Man City, as good as they've been, I don't think it's the time to bring them in now. The way that the rearranged games are potentially shaping up,
yeah.
I think if you are looking to bring players in now, I'd maybe be looking at Man United. I'd maybe be looking at Tottenham, just for those extra games. So I'm sitting with my defence. I've still got the Chelsea block, which has been quite frustrating, obviously. But at least the silver lining is, at least they've played over the last few weeks.
Mm.
The games have gone ahead, so I've got Rudiger, James, and Alonso, as well as Mendy. So Mendy's going. I'll probably take out at least probably another 2 of them in the next few weeks. And again, I'll be targeting probably Man United, maybe even a couple of Spurs players, because
Mm.
I've saved the transfers for the fixture gains. I don't think the fixture gains have come to fruition pre-Christmas because of all the cancellations, unless you went for Liverpool. But it is hopefully looking like there's going to be a chance as we move into the new year to start loading up on those teams with extra games. So that's the plan. Obviously, at the moment, we don't know if these fixtures are going to go ahead. It looks likely, but hopefully we get some more clarity. And by the point we've got clarity about AFCON as well,
Hmm.
you'll know more about when Salah's last game is going to be, when Mendy's last game is going to be, and you can plan those changes. And also, so I've got a pretty straightforward midfield of Rafinha, Gallagher, and Bernardo. I don't think I'm looking to move on any of those. And then Ronaldo's still in the team, obviously, with Salah, and I've got Antonio, who had brought in, who, just looking at him, makes me feel sick. So I think I want rid of him at some
It's
point as
harsh.
well. He's an illness in my team, and I think he's actually caught COVID himself. So
Yeah, there's
um,
rumours about that. We'll see. I guess we'll see. We're recording this just before West Ham play tonight in the cup. So let's hope that Moyes says something about it, because he's not the most forthcoming of managers, is he? So I don't know. I mean, I ended up moving Rafinha to Antonio, despite being a massive advocate on Spaces of keeping Rafinha over this period. Yeah, he's got a little bit lucky because he's got the penalties, but we knew that about him. He would have the penalties, and he is just a fantastic player, so it can happen in any game. So yeah, I probably should have held him. But yeah, I'm sat with Antonio as well, so I'll wait with bated breath. At the end of the day, if he's out or whatnot, then I probably, even though Rafinha's still got, I think, still another hard game. Yeah, he's playing away to Liverpool, isn't he? In fact, I've got the fixtures on the screen there, so he's away to Liverpool, which isn't great. But I think home to Villa from that point onwards, they're not too bad. They suddenly start coming back good again. So I'll just cut my losses and bring Rafinha back in for him probably in that scenario. Because I still think Rafinha is just, I mean, he's up there with Gallagher as one of the best Sky picks in the game, so I don't know what I was thinking, to be honest. Um, yeah, okay. It's looking good. So up front, you're just looking to get, you've already got Ronaldo, haven't you? And then just play Salah and look at a Spurs player, then I think. Is that right? Are you looking to get one of Kane or Son in?
yeah, I think that's right. I think so. We've mentioned Man United potentially having extra games. Obviously, Spurs have had more cancellations than anyone else, so they've still got Burnley, Brighton, and Leicester games to be
Mm,
rescheduled. And if United are going to have these FPL double game weeks as they're known in January, then it looks like Tottenham will too. And the fixtures for Tottenham, this is obviously starting from Boxing Day, but they've got Palace, Southampton, Watford, and Arsenal, with two of those potential postponements to go in as well. So that's Burnley, Brighton, and Leicester. So those games look pretty good. So I think Kane obviously scored at the weekend. Should have got sent off, in my opinion, for a disgraceful challenge on
Yeah.
Robertson.
Mm.
But he might come back into the fray. And Son still looks electric, doesn't he? So,
Yeah.
depending on how budget goes at the time, maybe shuffle the pack. And if I've got enough for Kane, I'll probably go there. But Tottenham don't seem to be getting any penalties anymore, which Kane obviously relies on for shot bonus
Yeah.
and for.
I
But
mean, yeah, that we can't take anything from that, can we? Because the refs change every week. It seems like one week they're deciding they're not giving any penalties, and then the next week they were too harsh and they'll be a bit more lenient, and it's just comical. You can see because it's not like it's a bit, it's always one or the other, isn't it? The whole game week is just penalties or it's none. It just seems that way all the time. So um, I wouldn't be surprised if the refs are given a dressing down after each week and told, that they were slightly too harsh that week or whatnot. But anyway, Kane's always been the preferred pick in Sky for me, but I think we're at the point now where Son, given the little bit of saving and what it can make from your team, there is absolutely no desire to destroy your team to change Son into Kane, if that makes sense. I think you just go Son in that scenario and be quite comfortable with it. He could easily just outscore him. I do
you're
think.
right.
I do think that Kane missed. I mean, he missed a lot of opportunities in that last game, but he was getting the opportunities, and that's always the thing with Kane. He just needs those shots and those opportunities, and normally he will convert them. Obviously, his goal was still pretty good as well. But I do think that game suits them. They had a long period to work with his players, Conte. There, the longer time he gets, the better hopefully they will become. They can't be continuously as bad as they were. I don't think, not with some of the players that they've got in their team up front. But I think the Liverpool game did suit them a bit. You could see it was kind of that early Jose Mourinho phase where they were sort of soaking up the pressure and then looking to counter quickly, putting the ball straight in for Son and Kane, and obviously they were getting the opportunities, which is great. How they'll then perform in some of the easier games, we still haven't really seen, but I like to think that Conte's worked with them and is going to start working again. So yeah, I'll probably go there again, despite Kane failing, or all of us who went there over the last, when they had that sort of period of 5 great games, including Norwich, etc. But we got to kind of chalk that off, I think, and it just makes sense to get him. It's not just on they're a good team with decent fixtures. It's the fact that they've got the extra quantity of games, and obviously if you keep playing with extra games, you've always given yourself a chance, even if it's just picking up twos and threes here and there or shot tiers. You're going to end up getting value for that transfer, I think. Um,
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I would say with Spurs though that the only challenge you've got is that they continuously play on the first day of each game week. So
right.
they play on Boxing Day. They
Mm,
then play the Tuesday. Then they play again on the first day the next week. So capitalizing on that's quite tricky. But if you are sitting there with Salah, and let's say Salah disappears to AFCON on the 20, let's say maybe the 28th ish. If he goes, if let's say he's not going to end up playing on that Leicester game, I think that the signs are that he will. So it might be that it's the week after.
hmm
But the point of the matter is that Kane plays early in the game week against Watford on the 1st. He's also got Southampton on the 28th. So either of those days could be an entry point if you know that Salah's going to be away.
hmm
So that could be something you look at. And then you could argue that Kane is a captaincy option, maybe even on both days, right? Because the other games, Liverpool away at Leicester, Spurs have got Southampton on that day. And then on the 1st, Arsenal versus Man City does probably point towards a Cancelo captain, but Arsenal have been much better recently. That's not an easy game. And Spurs have got Watford that day. And that's really the only other
Yeah,
standout game.
Watford are
So
pretty much across expected goals data. Watford still sit bottom of the league in terms of their defensive numbers. So officially the worst defence really on data. So I know there's been a period of time there, but you'd like to think if there's any game that Spurs are going to score in, and Watford obviously being at home as well, have to come out at least a little bit, right, compared to being away from home, so there might be some space there. So yeah, I think a Spurs captain's looking good. You wouldn't look at West Ham away to Palace. Obviously, the Palace are a good side. Leicester home to Norwich is great, but how many Leicester players have we got? I don't think anyone will really have any. I don't think you want to bring Vardy in now, especially around Christmas. This is usually where the minutes start to take the toll on him. And like you say, Cancelo away to Arsenal, that's probably it's going to be the the sort of square off between a Cancelo and a Spurs option there, which if you've got both the players, then obviously you're onto a bit of a winner there anyway, because they're probably going to be the most heavily captained ones. So yeah, I think it's a good argument to get a Spurs player. And me personally, I've obviously got Salah in my team like everyone else. He'll probably end up going to Kane or Son. I also brought in Mane for Ronaldo, and Ronaldo's games were cancelled just to get the extra games, which worked out. He got a few extra points, but not too many. And then I'll probably move him on. So I'll have Ronaldo and a Spurs player in for Salah and Mane. So my team's pretty set up to do that, and they're probably my only impending transfers. Uh, and maybe Antonio to Rafinha. That's about it that I've got in my mind, which will see me through. I'm pretty happy with that, to be honest. I think my team's quite set up quite nicely because I've obviously got Trent Alexander-Arnold, James, Cancelo, and Rudiger. And although Chelsea's games get worse, and I've got two of them, I think if you are going to have two of them, James and Rudiger are probably the standout ones. So maybe I can look at moving a James or a Rudiger on to another player. Maybe I can look at a Man United defender. Maybe I can look at going for a Spurs defender, but I'm not particularly happy about that. I think it would probably be looking at getting in Laporte or something like that and doubling up on the Man City defence, even though they've got less games and they're harder. I just think Laporte is just... I mean, I don't know if you've been looking now, but I'm going to bring up the data here at the moment. We go to successful passes. Across the whole season per 90, Laporte now sits top of every player in the league at 82 successful passes on average. So he's getting passing tier every game. They're favourite for a clean sheet in every game they play. And for me, it's one of those ones where just because the games are a little bit tougher or they haven't got the number of games, he's just a pretty damn good buy, to be honest. And it's a nice price. It's 9.1. It's a big saving on DS.
I agree. I've been trying to find a way of getting him in for ages, and I just haven't managed it. I should have brought him in instead of Antonio, but the way the fixtures were, it wasn't set up to bring a City defender in. But I think if I was going to go back there, he'd be the one I was looking at. And I think the games, as much as it looks like they're going to have fewer matches in between now and the overhaul than other teams, they still do have. They've obviously got Leicester, Brentford, Arsenal, Chelsea. I mean, you could see them keeping clean sheets.
Yeah, it's more to compared to Chelsea, right, who are in a similar situation where they don't have as games and their games are tougher. And
yeah.
I mean, I still think there's probably... I don't think in Rudiger's case or James's case they're probably fairly nailed, but James in the past has at least been rotated a bit. So yeah, I just think maybe a Chelsea defender, maybe if you've got one who's even worse than them, to a Laporte is not the worst. I'd still have Trent right at the top at the moment, even though, you know, because of what he offers an alternative captain as well for a Salah. But it's a shame that the Spurs and the Man United defenders don't really appeal, really. And obviously De Gea offers us that with Man United, but I think those two teams would offer us a decent option on paper, right, because of the fixtures and extra games. But I don't... Would you look to get a Man United defender or a Spurs defender? I just don't know if I could bring myself to do it, to be honest, because they don't really tick any of the boxes I normally look for.
I don't really know. I mean, some people I think I've seen have got Dallo from United.
Yeah, he's cheap.
Rumors that he's cheap. Don't know if he's going to be nailed on. That's the only concern. So maybe him. I'd maybe look at Maguire.
Let's
just
bring him up,
for
yeah.
security of starts. I don't think his passing numbers have been anywhere near what you would hope. I think he does. He threatens bonus. I don't think he gets it frequently. But since Rannick's come in, I think he's been passing it about a little bit more. I think he did get bonus against Palace. I think he got
tier 1 versus Palace. Yeah, nothing. He didn't get any tiers versus Norwich. Nothing versus Arsenal. And before that, he's full of zeros and minuses. But then obviously had the other. Had the previous manager in Solskjaer. So I don't know. If I was to pick any Man United defender, I'd still probably go for him, as I think he's the most nailed one, and he probably does get the passes. But it's a stretch, isn't it? I think that's the scenario where just because they've got the extra games, I'd still be fairly comfortable just sat with a Chelsea one, and it's a shame really, because Luke Shaw's got the potential. I think if he was playing and he takes all the set pieces and stuff, he's obviously got the chance. But yeah, not an option for me anyway.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. It's tricky, and Spurs are in the same boat, right? Because they've obviously got the additional games, and there's no one really from their defence that stands out as being a great option.
Simon Davies has been doing pretty well. He's 7.8 million, which is probably a little bit too much than what I'd like to spend on him. I wish he was a little bit cheaper. But in terms of actual playing on the pitch, he sits as that third centre back on the left hand side, which is giving a little bit of license to bomb forward. I think they attack predominantly down the left because Regulian, when he's fit at least, and Sessegnon when he hasn't been, is kind of their main attacking wing back, and then as a result the left centre back kind of pushes up with them almost. and he's put
Yeah.
in a few tasty crosses. I mean, he got an assist versus Norwich, he got a 10-pointer versus Norwich, 7 points versus Brentford, he got 9 points versus Everton, and he picked up a passes tier. So I think the longer Conte works with him on his system, I think you're going to see the odd tackle because he's the third. You know, he's on the side of the centre backs, which obviously gives him a chance to put more tackles in. You're going to see the odd passing bonus versus some of the weaker teams, and you're going to pick up maybe the odd assist, maybe 2 or 3 from now to the end of the season or something. So it's really just, do you back Spurs defence to keep clean sheets with the extra games and stuff? And I think there's a decent chance. So he's probably an outside bet if you're looking for someone more budget in defence and you want to move a Chelsea player to, to get a Ronaldo or to get a better option somewhere else. I think he probably does put his hand up out of all the Spurs players, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair. I do just worry with Spurs centre back. They've got quite a number of options, and nobody seems like they've absolutely nailed themselves down in their positions.
I don't know. I think Davies is he's probably the only one who can play that left-sided centre back, and I think Dyer he's been playing him in the centre and he's been pinging a lot of passes. I think those two are fairly comfortable. I think it's that right-sided centre back that is open to change quite a bit. And Romero's been, is he injured or suspended or something? Let me see. Yeah, he's been
Yeah,
out at least.
he's got a hamstring injury, I think.
He's got a hamstring injury, right? I think he'd probably
I think it's
come
going to
in.
keep him out for a while, though. I don't. From the last update I saw, it's not looking like he's going to be
Okay.
back very
Yeah, I mean
quickly.
Reguilon's 8.5, and he obviously will probably get more attacking returns, but I think 7.8 Davies is probably the shrewder pick, to be honest, in Sky. Just about. Anyway, what should we do then? Should we look at the upcoming games and see who you're captaining and what you're? I mean, we've obviously talked us through your few free plans there, but for me, on Boxing Day, assuming all the games go ahead, we've got Man City home to Leicester, which instantly tempt me. But then you've got the very first game on the fixture list, which is Liverpool at home to Leeds, and the way Leeds have been defending, um, has it got to be Salah? I think it kind of has.
Oh, it's a no-brainer. I mean, that's going to be an absolute battering, isn't it? The Leeds are still playing. I don't know, some kids that they've obviously just called up from 23. Some of the players that get nowhere near the starting 11.
mm,
They really like the way they played against Arsenal. It was. I'm not a Leeds fan, but I was furious watching it. Just kamikaze football when you're playing with kids like that. I mean, obviously, fair play. They're
mm,
sticking to the strategy, but you'd think maybe a bit of pragmatism would come into play when you're playing with players that are nowhere near the level that you
mm.
need to compete in this league. Maybe just put some players behind the ball and try and defend, but no, that's not what Bielsa does. So I can see them getting absolutely battered. So yeah, Salah every day.
Yeah, it's hard to. I started this video saying that I think we always have to consider Cancelo, and I think Cancelo at home to Leicester, who are also one of the worst defences in the league in the expected data. I do think Cancelo could have an absolutely fantastic game here again, but I think it's just the fact that Leeds have, they've shown the potential to ship a massive amount of goals. They've got so many injuries. We know that they're, at least from everything we've seen up to this point, and unless Bielsa suddenly decides, that's enough, I'll throw the towel in, I will play in a different way. Um, you've got to go with what we know so far, and the chances are he'll play open again, and playing open against that Liverpool attack just looks like it's already a bad decision before he's even made it, and they're going to score a lot of points. So yeah, I think mine will be Salah. Um, Obviously, we've only got the one game Monday, the 27th, which is Newcastle Man United. Obviously, wait for the lineups and see what the situation is. But if Ronaldo's in the starting lineup for me, I'll probably be taking Mane out and bringing Ronaldo in and putting the armband on him. And I imagine you'll have Ronaldo captain, and I think virtually everyone else in the game will probably have Ronaldo captain on that day. I can't. Maybe a few will have David De Gea, like you said. I don't know if there'll be anyone else really captained on that day. So with the extra games, the fact that they've got good games, he's a good player, it literally ticks all the boxes to me. Whereas if you haven't got a captain, you need to bring one in on that day rather than just avoid it. I don't think it's an avoid game personally.
No way. No, no. I
Mm.
think you want to make sure you've got someone from United there. And it might end up being that those who did decide to take Ronaldo out and gamble on the free for none end up falling in the river and coming out with a salmon in their mouth if Ronaldo doesn't end up playing.
Yeah,
But I'm like at this point, there's nothing to suggest that he won't. Although there's some rumours that he wasn't training yesterday, but it's all a phased return. It's all fine. He's going
yeah.
to be
I've
okay.
just seen on Twitter now he's turned up to training today. So
Oh, there we are. We're fine then. Yeah. So
yeah,
it looks like he's going to play. Yeah. So yeah, I've got him in my team still. He'll be the captain, and I might, depending on if we hear anything more about Mendy's departure date, might be a night to bring in De Gea as well,
mm,
just because I think surely Newcastle's a decent chance of a clean sheet, and then the games are good from there. So yeah, it might be a transfer that day for me.
yeah. Also though, on that one, if Mendy Chelsea have actually got home to Brighton on Wednesday the 29th, which is their next game, and then Man United play again on Thursday the 30th, and you get to see lineups in both cases there as well. So I don't think there's Newcastle, they can score a goal. Despite them being pretty bad, they can actually score goals occasionally. So I think there is an argument to say wait for Chelsea home to Brighton, who struggle to score goals, especially away from home, and then get him David Hay for the Burnley game. So you could go either one there, I think. Um,
Absolutely, and I'd like to think that by the 27th we'll know if Mendy's going to be hanging around for that game on
mm,
the Wednesday. If it is that Mendy's away by the Wednesday, then just bring in De Gea on the 27th. If not, wait till the
yeah.
30th.
And I think that all the noise is still that the AFCON's going ahead, isn't it? But I suppose that we always have to be wary that that might just not even happen.
Yeah.
So moving on to Tuesday, 28th of December, fixtures on the screen there. Is it just a case of Salah's playing, so we'll stick the armband on them again? They're playing Leicester.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I mean, at this point, it looks like Salah's going to be playing that game. So yeah, if anything changes, then I could be in a bit of trouble because I've not got that many other options. I've got Antonio still. He could maybe be the one against
Watford.
Watford.
Mm,
Yeah, but I think it'll be Salah again for me there.
yeah.
I presume the same for you.
Yeah, same for me. I mean, Villa are playing Leeds, so if Leeds have just been thumped 9-0 versus Liverpool and are continuing to play that way, I think a Villa, if you've got a Watkins, I think a lot of people maybe looked at him over the last couple of weeks. They certainly did in FPL, maybe not in Sky, but he's maybe an outside shout. But yeah, West Ham player versus Watford probably stands out most for me. I mean, I still think Arsenal at home to Wolves. Wolves struggle to score in any game, so if you're sat with Ramsdale, I don't think he'd be the worst option to captain on that day either. Um, and even the likes of if you've got any of their midfield assets, which are all just performing really well, it's decent at picks as well, probably. Wednesday the 29th, Chelsea home to Brighton, Man City away to Brentford. I'd be tempted by a simple Rudiger because I think that's likely to be a 10-pointer. The thing is, Chelsea defence has been a bit up and down, and if they've got no centre midfielders, maybe not. But I can't look past Cancelo even if it's an away game. I think Cancelo will be my captain on that day. Away
Yeah,
to
I've got
Brentford.
absolutely no faith in the Chelsea defense anymore after what they did against Everton. So,
Yeah,
um, I suspect they're probably conceding that game. They're a joke at the moment.
yeah.
To be fair, they have had a lot of injuries and stuff, but yeah, I think it'll be Cancelo. Really straightforward pick that night.
Yeah, I think that'll be a very big day for the teams at the top hand because a lot of the top players have got a lot of defenders from Chelsea and Man City still knocking around in their team. Some have got a complete back six essentially with a keeper and defender of a mixed match of the teams, some heavily on one and the other. But if Chelsea and Man City keep clean sheets on those days and end up getting their passing bonus and stuff, you're going to see a huge swing. That could be a huge day. If they both concede, then obviously it's going to go the other way. So yeah, just watch out for the rank swings on that day. They're going to be huge depending on where you sit. Thursday, the 30th of December, is also in the game week. We've got Everton home to Newcastle. I think there's some murmurs that Calvert-Lewin might be back for that one, or very close, which would be a teaser if he's in the lineup. But I don't know about you, but do you ever go that early on a player where if he's just suddenly, say, starting that game, it's a good game, do you just bring him straight away, or do you always worry that they're probably not up to scratch, or they could re-injure themselves, or what? What's your general philosophy on that?
Yeah, I mean, I do like going early on players. I don't like going early on players that play for Everton. Yeah, and also Rafa's just such. If he did pick up a knock again, Rafa's he's out for a couple of days and it ends up being 3 months.
Yeah.
So I've fallen out of love and trust with Rafa. Although I would say if you did want to bring Calvert-Lewin in, the games are pretty good. I think that they've
They've
got
got fantastic games, yeah. They've got a
Newcastle, then
really
they've
good
got
run.
Brighton, and I think they've got a game against Norwich as well in January. Maybe a rescheduled game against Leicester to come in. So they've got some good games in there.
Yeah, the games that are on paper are Burnley, Newcastle, Brighton, Norwich, Villa in the next five, and like you say, there might be a rescheduled one in there for Leicester as well, which aren't worse. Then they've got Newcastle after that, so I'm going to keep going for a little while. Then Leeds. God, it gets bad. Let me read this properly. Yeah, Burnley, Newcastle, Brighton, Norwich, Villa, Newcastle, Leeds, Southampton is their next
That's pretty
eight
good.
games, and then obviously maybe a rescheduled one in there as well. So if you'd have told me they've any team's got that games, I'd be slightly interested. And if it's Calvert Lewin, it is a teaser.
It's been a long-term injury though, so who knows what his fitness is
Exactly.
going to be like. He could end up picking up another knock. I think put this right. If you're in a situation where you fancy rolling the dice, then maybe it could be worth it. Um, Would you captain him against Newcastle? You probably could as well, but
Yeah,
Man United against Burnley is a good game
I
too.
think the appeal is the fact that he's a striker. We've had no strikers all season that have been particularly good, right? On obviously in Sky, Salah's a striker, so yeah, we've got him. He goes away soon. You got Ronaldo, and then if Antonio's got these issues with COVID, or he's just been as dire as he's been of late, there's still not really that many strikers putting their hands up, and he kind of fills the slot. So I think I do predict that um, a few people will start to look at him, and obviously it depends how he looks and how he's doing. But yeah, going early could be an opportunity. If you're down the ranks somewhere and you're looking at how the hell I'm going to catch up, that's probably a potential one I think that you could look at and just look to go early and hope you get lucky on the situation. But yeah, we'll have to see. I guess he may not even be anywhere close. It might just be rumours at this point. But I thought that's what I saw. So yeah, on that day for me, it'll be Ronaldo home to Burnley probably. And even if I did bring in Calvert-Lewin for that game, I'd probably still have the armband on Ronaldo for that game as well.
There is obviously a chance that Ronaldo gets rested, and if that happens, then maybe people will
This
go
is
to
true.
Calvert-Lewin.
This is true. Yeah, we'll have to see. I'll be interested to see if he comes back for that game or not. And yeah, those fixtures are ones to keep an eye on if they can sort it. I think they've got injuries all throughout their team, all over the place though. So even if he comes back, he might not be able to get the service. We'll have to see. Right, I think that's it. Anything else you want to cover at all now?
I think we've exhausted everything, but I would say maybe this week we'll try once we get more information about maybe fixtures, once we get more information about AFCON, we might try and throw spaces in at some point.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, can which was actually really good. Quite enjoyed the interaction that we got from that, and
Mhm.
yeah, thanks to everyone for joining those. And apologies for us being away for so long, but we're pleased to be back, and hopefully we're going to make this more of a consistent fixture now.
Oh yeah, it'll be consistent from now. Don't worry, we're all good now. As long as the computer doesn't blow up, we're all good, I think. So they'll continue from now. And yeah, throwing in those spaces every now and then alongside them is good to do, I think, especially just because you can react to the news is so quick and fast that sometimes a podcast doesn't have time to catch up. Sometimes we have, I mean, just this game week alone, we've obviously got a whole set of fixtures, then we've got double game weeks all over the place potentially coming up. So spaces fill that gap, right? So we'll try to do that. Thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for bearing with us. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. Get yourself on the Fantasy Football Scout website and have a look at the members area if you've not already. A lot of the stats and stuff we talk about are obviously taken from there. Get yourself a Christmas gift and get involved. Catch you guys on the next one. See ya. Bye bye.